few years ago, I was walking through the woods off the beaten track a bit, and I smelled this really overpowering sweet smell. Being nosy, I pulled back the undergrowth to have a look and found a dead body. The guy had clearly been there a while and wasn't looking great. The man was swollen and green and black with various runny bits all over his body. The local wildlife had also been dining well for a few days, if you know what I mean. I called the police, who told me to wait with the body until they arrived. Being in the middle of nowhere, it took a while for them to arrive, and it got dark, and I was just sat there in the dark with them for the longest time. It turned out he had committed suicide. For a long time afterwards, I had dreams about him, and he would talk to me and say very mean things, mainly about how he was angry I had disturbed his resting place, and he wanted me to kill myself. Probably just my imagination, but all pretty disturbing at the same time. He still turns up in my dreams from time to time, and no doubt he will join me there tonight after typing this out. About 2 years ago, I was driving home from a family reunion late at night, and the drive was about 2 hours. I didn't stay the night because I had to be back for work the following day. Most of the drive was on roads with dense bushes and trees on either side. The real creepy ones you see a lot in movies. Anyway, I had been driving about 45 minutes and I was starting to get very tired. You know how sometimes you just suddenly become really tired, out of nowhere? Well, yeah, that happened to me. I knew I wasn't going to last, but I didn't come across any place that I felt I could park and safely sleep. Anyway, after it became clear to me that I wasn't going to find a place to pull up, and my tiredness wasn't going away, I did something very questionable. I pulled over to the side of the road onto the grass, behind some bushes, to try and hide my car from anybody else who was going to come past. I made a mental note that the time was 11:22, and then fell asleep. Sometime after, I was awoken by a scratching sound. I looked at the clock, 11:50 p.m. The sound stopped after a few seconds, and because I was still extremely tired, I didn't bother looking around, simply went back to sleep. I was later awoken by the same sound, and it was now 12:40 p.m. This time it really freaked me out because the sound didn't stop. The thought ran across my mind that it was just an animal inspecting the car, but why would it return almost an hour after it had left the previous time? I looked in my rearview mirror and just managed to catch a glimpse of something running away into the forest. Now at that time, I thought it was the damn hook killer. You know, the one that scratched the couple's car and then slaughtered the guy when he got out to investigate. Fuck that, I thought to myself, so I got the hell out of there. There was a bend no more than 100 yards up the road, and as I came around it, there was a car parked off to the side of the road with the driver's side door open. I slowed down just to look to see if anyone was in there. There wasn't. Then I looked in my rearview mirror. I didn't see anything, and all of a sudden, this guy comes sprinting around the corner. He starts screaming at me, shouting stuff like, "Hey, you, get out of your car now." I noped out of there and sped off. I never saw the guy again. Moral of the story, don't sleep on the side of a deserted road. A few summers ago, I went for a bike ride around midnight with a friend. We went our separate ways at the end of the evening, and I had about 2 blocks to ride back by myself. Because of construction, I had to ride on the sidewalk, but the streets were dead. But it wasn't a problem until right where I was about to turn left onto my street. There was this man walking by himself, maybe in his 40s, a little scruffy but not homeless. The sidewalk was narrow, and I didn't want to freak him out, so when I got about 6 feet behind him, I said, "Hey, behind you, and he turned around and gave me this super angry look. I turned down my street and he started to follow me, literally screaming about how I was a piece of garbage and how he was going to kill me and all of that. I live right off the corner and didn't want him to figure that out, so I decided to do another loop around the block. That's not the scary part. The scary part is that when I looped back around and looked down the street, I saw him standing on my front stoop like the motherfucker knew I lived there. He saw me ride by again, but he didn't say anything. I ended up going back to my friends, but my bike got stolen from the alleyway by my house 2 days later. When I was around 6 or 7 years old, we had this neighbor that would regularly try to invite me over for cake and candy or to play with the dogs he owned. My parents didn't trust him, so of course invites were declined. Years later, we learned that he regularly raped his 12-year-old stepdaughter and got her pregnant. When he went to trial, it was revealed that there were 4 other young girls in his past that he had abused. The guy used to decorate his house like a haunted mansion every Halloween, and kids would go crazy for it. I'm so glad that my parents wouldn't allow me to go there. When I was 16, my parents went out of town for a weekend. It was actually pretty sweet, because I got to be king of the castle for the weekend. So I get home that Friday night and just dick around, internet, video games, etc., and start watching TV around dusk. The way our living room was set up was that there was a set of glass doors right next to the television that looked out to the back porch and backyard. The backyard was surrounded by ivy that grew on a hill around 45-degree angle. So I'm just mindlessly channel surfing, and I see some movement outside. At first I just dismiss it thinking it's a bird or a neighborhood cat or something, but then I notice that whatever is moving is way bigger than a bird or a cat. I go and put my face near the glass and stare into the backyard, and there's some man just crouching in the ivy looking into the house. Our eyes meet, and he has somewhat of an oh shit moment and bolts out of our yard. Scared the hell out of me. My mom had a stalker for years. She was maybe in her early 30s. I was about 3 and my brother was around 1 when it all started. My dad would leave for work in the morning, and as soon as he was gone, the calls would start coming in. She'd answer the phone and some guy would be saying all this horribly sadistic and sexual things about what he wanted to do to my mom. She was beyond frightened and didn't know what to do. Sometimes the caller would describe what she was wearing at that very minute, or describe what she was doing. My parents were struggling financially, so they couldn't just up and move, but my mom started spending more and more time at my dad's mother's house when he was away. The cops got involved, but they couldn't trace the call. Finally, they were able to save up enough money to move. I was about 6 by this time. The phone number was changed and unlisted in the phone book. This was around 1988 when everyone still used landlines. My mom never got another scary phone call, but she had nightmares about it for years. When I was little, I remember going into her bedroom in the morning and she would be sobbing into her pillow. I didn't understand it at that point, but she explained later in life that she'd wake up from a nightmare and just shake and cry. A couple months after we had moved, the cops informed us that they finally caught the guy. It was our next-door neighbor's 19-year-old son. He had been in the military, but was discharged due to severe mental health issues. I guess he was put into some sort of special security home that specializes in mental health. The lead investigator said that the son was obsessed with my mother, and they found a box in his room full of a bunch of photos, candidly taken of her, when she was out in the garden or playing with us kids in the yard. It chills me to the bone when I think about it now. Anything could have happened to my mother when my dad was at work, and I'd be too young to help her. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe for future content. Email your true scary stories to thesinfulsavant@gmail.com. I will leave a link to my email in the description box below as well. Until we meet again, stay sinful.